Hi, Spurs troops. Welcome to the Steve Perryman Podcast. As usual, we have the normal suspects. Tom in the office side of things and Howard in the memory bank, I can call it. Can't I, Howard?
You can.
Yeah.
Why not?
How are you doing, Howard?
Good. And you?
Great. Thank you. And Tom, you're okay?
Good. Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Kids are in bed. Finally. Dogs calm down. Time for a nice relaxing evening.
New job, or is that a secret? Certainly not now.
Not anymore. No, you've ruined everything. Started a new job today. So just been getting my head around a few new bits and pieces. But yeah.
Oh, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Best of luck. So we're all happy. We've got an unbeaten run going, which is terrific, as we all know. And the last game being Notts Forest. I was at a function on Sunday afternoon. So I was watching bits and then I had to talk to people and then I was back to watching and then so I missed certain aspects of the game that I've now caught up on, but not the general flow of the game. So I'm very interested to hear you two, how you viewed that game. Certainly a fine victory. And yeah, who wants to start us off?
I thought that it carried on in the same vein as the last couple of games. I think, Howard and I were just saying beforehand that Southampton still feels like the only game so far this season that we really looked in control of, I guess. Whereas this was like the Chelsea and the Wolves games, particularly the first half of those games, we struggled to get out of our own third at times, and at least didn't particularly look that cohesive going forward with the ball either, and it seemed to bounce off us a bit. So it felt a bit like that throughout the game. Rewatching the highlights, it kind of felt a lot less stressful. And in terms of clear-cut chances, Forest didn't have that many, but they did have the ball around our box a lot, and their midfield looked a little more in control of things than we did. Having said that, our counter-attack looked like we were going to score every time we broke with the ball. And generally, I thought, 2-0 away at Forest is a very good result. We'll probably really value those points at the end of the season. The optimist in me is trying to think we're getting the points when we're not playing that well. So let's see what happens when we really do click into gear and the team starts playing like we know it can.
Absolutely. Howard, has the points and the performance added to your confidence, which I know has been building nicely since pre-season?
Well, at the end of last season, we looked really, really strong. We looked to dominate midfield, and we won all but one of our games in the run-in, which got us into the Champions League. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah. But
I'm watching the game so far this season, and they don't look in control. We don't look like. I know we're playing on catching them on the break, but you can't rely on that all the time. You've got to play some football, and it's just not. I'm not feeling as confident as I was then. I'm also put off by Arsenal being top and playing great stuff. Actually,
they look vibrant. They look young.
Yeah,
they look energetic. So that is a bit worrying.
But also, I found
we actually looked second best in terms of a football team.
Yeah.
Now, I know football matches are decided by goals, and obviously in that department, we've been better than the other teams. Therefore, we've, not lost. So, thank God for Harry, eh?
Well, yes and no. I must be the only supporter who's not desperately in love with Harry at the moment.
Okay.
He scored 4 goals in the last 3 games, or whatever it is, and you can't take that away from him.
Yeah.
But he hasn't looked to me as sharp as he has at his best. The goal he got was it bubbled along the pitch, a bit lucky there. He had a couple of other good efforts, which in normal times you'd expect him to score, and he didn't, including the penalty.
Yeah.
And I don't see him smiling as much on the pitch as he used to. There's definitely a bit of a problem with him and Son, because in every one of the last 3 games, at least once, we've seen Harry shouting at Son because he hasn't passed to him.
Yeah.
And
that is worrying. And Son's reaction when he came off wasn't very healthy, was it?
No.
Yeah, I think you're right about them both. That's without seeing the whole of the game. So I've got to qualify that somewhat. I think I know it's easier to destroy than create. So
Yes.
if you're going to have players who work their way into a season, it will be the creators, the goal makers, the goal takers that are going to struggle while they're not at their sharpest, which no one can be at the very start of the season. So I come back to Harry. I say that judge a footballer, okay, not necessarily a striker, but a footballer. Does he score? Does he create goals? And does he defend his goal? And I still think he does all three.
Yeah.
Well, I absolutely know he does all three. So I think the fact that he's not quite on it, but that's looking for, absolutely sheer brilliance. He's not quite on it. But when you're scoring, it just covers over the cracks. And the biggest crack to cover over is your confidence crack. And Son is not doing that. Son is not doing that. So he's the one I'm more worried about, because I think he's a great character. I think he's got lots of energy. I think there's lots he can actually do better, as we've seen. And I think he would be I think there's a case of him he thinks too much. And I think for a goal scorer, that can be dangerous. So you start to find problems all around you, and start maybe, I'm not saying this is the case, but maybe blaming others for certain things. So am I worried about Son? No. Why? Because he's a very good character. And I think that's basically what it comes down to. So we looked, so far we've come from behind twice.
Yep.
Great pointer, that one. And the two games after that, when we've gone in front, we've kept it to a clean sheet.
Yep.
Very good pointer again. So I'm again, without seeing the full 90 minutes, I'm of course happy. I'm not happy that Arsenal were above us, but this is early season. So overall, I'm worried about Arsenal, but let's see how things pan out. And what about new players? New players, new contracts. Any opinions there?
I don't know about any new contracts.
Romero signed, hasn't he?
Oh,
Romero
right.
signed.
He's now signed it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very good, as long as he can contain his temper.
Yeah, I see that.
We definitely got a couple of characters, should we say, in the squad now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you need that. You need a bit of difference between the players, don't you? A bit of, I'm
dark arts.
I'm sure we're going to come on to arrogance at some point, but he's got to decide when he can win the ball and when he can threaten to win the ball and use that threat to hold off. Go, but then at the last second, hold off. If he commits too many times too early, I think we've mentioned it before on here, I think there's a chance of a penalty coming against him. But let's see. So we're Howard, you've got some stories to tell us about Forest, maybe past stories.
Yeah, just that we may find amusing.
Far away.
While you're looking it up, Howard, I was just going to say, were you at the Rumbellows Cup semi-final in '92 when there was the bomb scare just before the game? And
I remember something about that.
That is one of the games I'm going to talk about.
Damn it! Sorry, Howard, stole your thunder.
No.
Good.
You've reminded him.
You've reminded him, which is great. Go, Howard.
February '92, around then, where we played against Forest, and it was no score towards the end of the game, and they had this young superstar, and they got a corner, and he threw himself at this corner. There was no way he was not going to get that corner, and he did, and they scored from it, and they won the game. And of course, I believe in the interviews afterwards, one of the interviewers said to Roy Keane, "What did you think of Spurs or the goal or whatever?" And he basically said, the exact opposite of what you want to talk about, Steve, where he thought Spurs were not up to it. They weren't there, especially in bad conditions. And it kind of led to, although it was Ferguson that talked about the Spursy, actually I think Roy Keane, before he went to Old Trafford, had already
started it off.
Yeah.
He started it off.
Yeah.
Wow. Howard, do you want to read out the quote that I sent to both of you that Bill Nicholson made?
Any player coming to Spurs, whether he's a big signing or a groundsman, they must be dedicated to the game and to the club. He must be prepared to work at their game. They must never be satisfied with their last performance, and they must hate losing. I think that's a great quote, and it could well come from Billy Nick. But
it certainly did. It certainly did. Okay, so I want that to lead us on to Dele Alli. Dele Alli now has joined the Turkish club, and everyone's asking what happened to Dele Alli. Any thoughts from your end? Having watched him play a lot more than me, but I do have my own thoughts to finish off with.
Well, I felt always sorry for him in the end, because clearly he was a talented boy. He seemed to be a perfectly nice character. We know he came from a rough background, but he seemed to cope with it really well. And I wonder if when he was in the first team for the first couple of seasons, when they would do any football focus or anything on Tottenham, they would often choose him and Derek Dyer as two guys who were really Spurs boys and were enjoying themselves at the club. And of course, he did do so well to begin with. Got into the England side. I mean, it was amazing. And then he lost it all completely. And I certainly, the only thing I've heard was that when he turned up at Everton for his first game, he turned up in a pink Rolls Royce or something.
Yeah.
Which is not really going to impress your colleagues.
No, exactly. Tom, anything?
Same, really. I mean, just he was just so good for 2 seasons, maybe 3, before it just started tailing off for him. And I think I've mentioned on the pod before that, you know, when we were living in Enfield, suddenly started seeing all these Boohoo Man adverts. Other clothing providers are available, dotted around town, and and it just suddenly seems that, like, when he got more into his other interests other than football, perhaps maybe it kind of started changing. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that last night Besiktas lined up with Dele Alli, Georgian Kudu, and Jedson all in the team. So a third of their team were ex Spurs, but out of all of those, you know, Dele, you just think he should have had the world at his feet by now if he'd have carried on the trajectory that we thought he was on.
Yeah.
I think that I didn't see so much of the good times.
Yeah.
Not so much, for various reasons. I'm abroad, I'm whatever. But I saw some special moments of him with running into the box and making the finish. I think one that springs to mind is Chelsea. Is it Chelsea away?
Yes.
So therefore, I'm looking from a slightly different angle to you two, because I'm not sure that I rated him so much in the first place. So it wasn't such a big come down, if you know what I mean, for me. But going back to that Bill Nicholson quote, I think that was he interested in to keep improving? Very difficult when, as I'm listening to you two, he has achieved such a height so early.
Yeah.
And by the way, got rewarded well for it. So was he more interested in other things? Did he lose his focus? Who knows? I don't know him. You two don't know him. But did he lose his focus with regard to the advertising or the personal relationships or whatever? The love of motor cars, etc.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I held against him was that I think he lost his what's the word? He lost his conscience. He lost his conscience on the football field. And it was like he wanted to do little flicks that probably back in the day were coming off. And therefore, he went on to flow into a good performance. But when it didn't come off, and this is like every player that plays on a football pitch, especially if you play for Bill Nicholson, you had to do something about getting the ball back. You had to do something about getting it back. Even if by you chasing that player that won it off you, you made him make an error. And therefore, another player of ours gained possession, or our team at least gained possession. So that's what I have against Dele Alli. It looked like he wanted to be the star of the show.
Yeah.
And at times, what you two are talking about, he was the star of the show. But actually, when you're not the star of it, as per what you're trying to achieve doesn't work, you then have to add something else. And that's where I think he let himself down. And maybe supporters out there are thinking like me. Therefore, having seen what you've seen, but then having seen what I saw as well, then it's even more disappointing that he wasn't delivering. And then I don't think he was putting in the effort, which is a crime. If you've got that cockerel on your chest, you got that white shirt on, and you don't seem to be giving it everything you've got, wow, I'll revert back to the Bill Nick days. And I know that's old-fashioned. I know it's old-fashioned. But if you think about what Conte is now doing with the team, I know supporters that are disappointed that 1-0 up, we didn't go for them, Forest. We didn't go for them and open ourselves up and play stylish football. That's not Conte. He doesn't think that we're that good yet to able to do that. So he's Italian after all. He's always going to be thinking about secure the win, secure the points. And if it leads us to getting 3 or 4 goals like we did against Southampton, so be it. But we're not going to do it by opening ourselves up. So I think Conte is very much based in the Bill Nick sort of tradition in terms of what's expected from you in your position on the field. So now that brings me on to the keepy uppy situation. Show yourself to me, please, you two.
I didn't really notice it. They hadn't started talking about it so much. And I wasn't aware that it was really looked at from a footballer's point of view as a real insult.
Yeah, good, Howard. Thank you. Tom?
I think Richarlison as a whole is making me laugh quite a lot with his antics at the moment. I mean, his Twitter reactions to some of the comments from Jamie Carragher and others are really making me laugh. I've got to say, I think he's the kind of player who, when he's on your team, you love him. If he's not, you probably don't. But I thought, in terms of what he did against Forest, it was pretty disrespectful, but also it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. And I think the reaction from the likes of Carragher compared to when they've kind of marvelled at other players, Diaz was doing it for Liverpool the other day, and no one commented on it in the same way. I think it'd be nice if pundits could be consistent in the way they berate or applaud players for what they do. But I thought it was a funny, entertaining moment, which I then forgot about pretty quickly until it got till the pundits analysed it to death afterwards.
Thankfully, I haven't been what's the word? I haven't been pushed in a certain direction by pundits, because if I couldn't watch the game, all of it, I'm certainly not going to watch the punditry after.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Anyway, so I think that, and therefore I've not heard the point I'm going to make. When he kept the ball up did you see how sloppy the ball back was to our player? It was horrendous. It was horrendous. So what I'm saying is that if you want to keep it uppy or do whatever you want, Alfie Conn sat on the ball against Leeds.
Yeah.
And Billy Bremner said to me, remember, Billy Bremner's a Scotsman and so's Alfie. Steve, tell that Scotch dick, but a better word than dick, if he wants to do that again, I'm coming for him. So it can lead to aggravation. It will lead to aggravation when you show yourself to be, okay, was it arrogance? Was it confidence? I'll leave it for you to decide. But as long as when you've got doing something like that does not lead you to the next mistake, because the ball back that he played to our supporting player was awful. And that suggests to me that his mind wasn't right when he's thinking about, oh, this is a good situation. I can keep it up here. And then when he kept it up a couple of times, the sloppiness of that ball back is the biggest crime out of all of this. Was it arrogant? Was it confidence? I don't care. The way you pass the ball on to the next player in your team matters. You pass the ball. You pass the ball how you'd like to receive it. And that's the clue to that situation. So if that had led to, actually we won it straight back, but if that had led to us conceding a goal, I'm telling you, Conte, being the professional that he is, would have gone absolutely apeshit. Really, really apeshit. So am I against it? I think you're right, Tom. Supporters will be for it because they like the entertainment value in that. They like the funniness of it. Yeah.
Only when you're winning.
When you're winning, and professionalism, and I'm talking Conte here, will not like it. Will not like it. And actually, I'm from the same school. I didn't like it. Mainly because of the quality of the ball that he gave off the back of the keepy-uppers. Yeah. So if you look at it again, please look at that situation. I made a quote the other day about the far post position with players, and a number of goals have been scored already. It is the number one position where you can score from. Number one. Well, okay, not every time, but you have to make that position every time, closing the back door. So if we want to talk about Richarlison, what about the pass he gave to Harry for the header?
That was perfect.
What a pass. What a pass. He picked that out. So he's obviously on a confidence high.
Wasn't just a pass though. Did you see the way he won the ball? Like using his body to the whole bit of play there was brilliant. Like you say, he was probably pumped and buzzing after doing that.
He was pumped.
Him that gave it to Richarlison?
It was a sort of a mistake. It was a mistake. It was a block.
Sessegnon had gone through on the left, and he kind of waited a bit. I think he should have played Harry in earlier.
Yes,
but he left it a bit late, and you could see Harry lose his mind in the middle of the 6-yard box, and then the ball just kind of like went out. Looked like it was going out for maybe a throw in, or the Forest right back was going to deal with it, and
two bodies came together.
Yeah, Richarlison used his body really very well. Yeah,
very well,
absolutely brilliant. But like you say, Steve, if you're then gonna go and do a bit of showboating afterwards, you better, like as you say, you better damn well make sure that you don't mess up.
Yeah,
the end of it, the final
pass. The final pass is everything for me, and because I've not listened to all the pundits, I obviously haven't heard anyone say that. But if they have, well done them, because that's the crux of this situation. So I'm going to come back to Sunday, why I didn't watch the game so much. I got invited to a horse stud farm in Royston, invited by Aussie Ardealers, so great. Poch was there. So this leads me into trouble. I've always said, sort of jokingly, that as much as I love Aussie, and I do, Ricky was my favourite Argentinian. You can imagine Ozzy's reaction to that. Well, now I've got a third contender because Poch was the perfect gentleman. I've never really spoke to him that much before to make this sort of decision on him. But him and his wife were an absolute delight. And my wife, so this doesn't hurt my opinion of him by any means, what my wife said, Steve, did you see his face when he recognized you? He was absolutely delighted to see you. So in my book, that's respect. And it says to me that Ozzy has told him various things about me, which I'm delighted that he has and had that reaction to me. So yeah, great to see Poch, and this stud farm was amazing. And so we had a good afternoon. We had an Argentinian barbecue, which was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Meat and more meat, and meeting people as well, like Poch and Ozzy. So having made that statement about Poch could be my new best Argentinian friend, I've now got Ozzy and Ricky coming with me to Bridgewater on September the 16th for a charity event where we're going to raise some money for two worthy charities. So I just wonder what Ozzy's going to come out with on stage, but what he does come out with will be worth listening to. So I hope that you people, Spurs people down in the West Country, come and see us, as I say, for good causes. So you've come across Ted Lasso, Howard, haven't you, in recent times?
Yeah.
How was he?
He was charming. I mean, he had, the last minute, I think on last Friday, he got somebody to get him a suite, as they call them, in the East Stand for the game. And that seats, I think, 12 people to have lunch or dinner around the table.
Brilliant.
12 very nice seats outside. So it's all nicely done. And he rang Brett on Friday and said, Jason's been on. He's going to the game tomorrow, and he's got 2 spare seats. Why don't you and Dad come?
Fantastic.
So we went along to the game. He got there sort of 20 minutes after kickoff. He turned to say hello and shake my hand, and we shook hands again at the end of the game. Had a photo taken, and that was it.
Brilliant.
It was really nice.
Well, you've name dropped. I've name dropped. Give us the name of your cat, Tom.
Oh, you seen him? He just popped up out of nowhere. This is Dougal.
Hello, Dougal.
Dougal. How are you?
But yeah, he's had his nose put out of joint by the arrival of the dog in recent weeks.
I bet he has.
But yeah, he's doing all right.
Great. Okay, to wind up, I'm gonna bore everyone to tears now. You know, if you're regular listeners, that I'm a great fan of the program Countdown.
Yep.
And I just want to say that the new host of Countdown is Colin Murray. It's not like I know him. Why should I? But he's absolutely perfect in his role as the host of Countdown. So I suggest anyone with spare time, and I understand if you don't, Countdown is worth watching. Colin Murray brings a humor to it, and he brings a tempo, and I'm delighted with that new job for him. So, of course, West Ham tomorrow, or maybe today when you're listening to this. Are we confident, chaps?
Oh, they're always up for it. It's always they always turn it on against us, and I don't know. I'm kind of glad they got that win the other day, because at least they've kind of got the win out of the way.
I'm delighted. Absolutely delighted.
Otherwise
they got that win.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think we'll lose. But yeah, it's hard to know. I just can't see us losing at the moment. I can't see us playing like we're going to dominate a game. But I just feel like even if we do concede, I think I feel like we can then turn it around. I think that there's enough on the bench, and there's enough. It's almost like we're playing with the handbrake on at times, and you feel like it could be let off when it needs to be done. And if we go behind,
that's the Italian bit I'm talking about. That's the Italian bit, the handbrake. What a good term. What a good term. You confident, Howard?
I'm not sure how I feel about it. on one hand, I think we can turn it around whenever we fall behind. On the other, maybe we haven't done that this season, or we have twice, haven't we, come back?
I'll remind everyone, if you think Son is struggling, how many times have we had Harry not scoring by the end of August?
Yeah.
It happens. It happens. When Son scores, he'll score 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. So, chaps, thank you very much for listening, and ladies, let's have a good week with the positive result against the Hammers. Happy Hammers, perhaps not so happy this week. Well, so far they're happy. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Howard. Very interesting stories. And come on, you Spurs.